Millions of dollars.
This is a CBS News special report. I'm Gayle King here in New York. We have just learned this morning that OJ Simpson has died at the age of 76. His agent said he had been suffering from prostate cancer. Now, this news comes on social media from the family of the former star running back who was tried and acquitted for the murder of his ex-wife and then found liable for her death in a lawsuit. Simpson's life story is extraordinary. He grew up poor in San Francisco, became a sports legend who won the Heisman Trophy while playing for the University of Southern California back in 1968 and set records in the NFL, and then moved into acting and TV work. He was one of the most desired commercial endorsers in the 1970s and 80s, but his career fell apart in 1995 when he was accused of stabbing his ex-wife, Nicole Brown Simpson, and a friend of hers, Ron Goldman, in her home in Los Angeles. He was arrested after a long, infamous police chase that lasted for hours. After one of the most controversial trials in recent memory, Simpson was found not guilty of both murders. Goldman's family then sued O.J. Simpson, and a jury ordered him to pay $33 million in a wrongful death judgment. But that was not the end of his legal troubles. In 2008, he was convicted in a kidnapping and robbery scheme involving some of his own memorabilia. He served 9 years in prison before he was paroled in 2017. Joining me now by phone is journalist Ed Gordon, who covered the O.J. Simpson trial for BET, and he was the first journalist to interview Simpson after his acquittal. Ed Gordon, good morning to you.
Good morning, Gail.
Ed, I actually remember that day. I was watching that interview. I think the country was riveted to that interview because we all wanted to hear what O.J. Simpson had to say. What was your thought when you heard that he had passed away this morning?
I literally, Gail, am at an airport. I just got off the plane and checked my phone. Needless to say, I was getting all kind of calls and texts, and it is a bit surreal. I mean, we all can go at any moment. But to think about, as you read, who O.J. Simpson was, this star running back, arguably at his time the greatest running back of all time in the NFL, then to become a pitchman and a movie star, and then, the tragedy that befell the Goldman family and what it's become. And so I think back, Gail, as you know, how divided this country was based on that trial. It's extraordinary.
Ed, I still remember when that verdict came in. He's still proved to be, I think, up until the end, a very divisive character. At the time, it seemed to be divided among racial lines. You know, I remember there was a lot of celebration in the streets from some members of the black community, and a lot of people were just in shock when the verdict came in when he was acquitted. What do you remember about that time?
Well, I remember that specifically, and I also think it's important for us to say, Gail, that I think a lot of African Americans had their doubts as to whether he was innocent or not, and much of the cheering was not necessarily for O.J. Simpson, as much as it was for someone who, as misguided as this may sound at first glance, had beat the system. That African Americans had, for so many years, been railroaded into jail, that you finally had someone rich enough and powerful enough to maybe, and I underline that, evade the system. But it's an extraordinary time that we live through. You think about the white Bronco and the chase and all that led up to his arrest. And I don't know that we would be able to even think about the proportion of it today, simply because social media, think about this, Gail, had he been on the freeway, even though the helicopters followed him, he would have had so many camera angles from phones and everybody trying to be, the reporter on the scene. It's just an extraordinary time.
You know, he was acquitted in that case, but there was forever still a cloud over O.J. Simpson. And how do you think he navigated that? Because, many times he would still be walking in the streets. People were asking for his autograph, wanting to take a photo with him. And still there were others that saw him as a pariah.
That's a great question, Gail. I had been with him on a number of occasions after the fact. And what he would do is when he would see someone looking at him, he would quickly go to them and say hello to them before they could say anything. It was a disarming tactic on his part, if you will. So if he was afraid they were going to say something rude or vile, he would try to disarm them because he was a charismatic person. He was bigger than life in many instances. And so he would try to speak first, and he was, and some people will rail at this, but he was charming at times. And so he leaned on that charm to disarm people.
Yeah, charming is not what the Goldman family feels about him, or
No,
many members.
Certainly not.
No, the Goldman family or the Simpson family, and I was always thinking about them during times like this.
Yeah, and it's hard to really kind of put your arms around this. It didn't bring any of those people back. It didn't ease the pain of those families who still today grieve the loss of those two people.
And he always, Ed, even right up until the end, he always maintained that he was innocent.
He did maintain that, as you say, until the day he passed away. And he was quick to suggest that he always was, in his words, searching for the killer. There were those who will suggest he never did that. But he did maintain he had absolutely nothing to do with it. And as hard as that is to believe for many people, and you think about this, Gail, for as long as it's been since those gruesome murders, OJ Simpson remained, up until he died, the face of a murderer for many. Even today, there will be comedians who will use him as the butt of a joke. And so it was something that stuck to him until his last days.
Ed Gordon, thank you so much. When I got the news, listen, we had heard that he was sick and that he'd been sick for a while, but it was still very jarring to get the news because it just brought back all the memories about that trial. And I still, to this day, keep thinking about the tragedy of the Simpson family and the Ron Goldman family. Thank you, Ed Gordon. Thank you for talking with us this morning. Just a reminder, we are remembering O.J. Simpson. He has died at the age of 76. His agent said that he'd been suffering from prostate cancer. O.J. Simpson's family said that he was surrounded by his children and his grandchildren when he died last night. There will be more coverage on our streaming service, CBS News 24/7, and tonight on the CBS Evening News with Norah O'Donnell. Many of you will now return to CBS Mornings. This has been a CBS News Special Report. I'm Gayle King, CBS News here in New York.
The IRS deadline is here.
There is a storm coming, an event like the world has never seen before. The emerging event will have little to do with weather, but more about developing situations that were foreseen many years ago. We have always warned you during severe weather and news events that affected many. Now, Channel 1 Atlanta begins a new series to warn you about what's coming soon and make sure you are prepared. Join us on a new journey, as according to a recent survey, a lot of people believe we are living in the last days. Current news events show us now more than ever. In history, time is setting the stage for the coming storm, a new series, now playing only on Channel 1 Atlanta.
Again, a confirmed tornado on the ground in downtown Conyers. This is a very dangerous and life-threatening weather event. Get into the interior section of your house, away from windows or a basement if you have. And there's the debris right there in the Millstead area near the Rockdale Medical Center. Right. Channel 1 Atlanta.
Damage. I found a random roof in my backyard. But other than that, I'm hoping it'll still be livable. The adjusters will let us know this week.
Jamie, you've been through in less than 5 years' time a couple of brutal experiences. I love your energy and your outlook towards this. By the way, Library Riot, one of the coolest names for a bar. Keep in touch with us, please. Let us know how the recovery's going. We'd love to see some images of that party when you open back up too. Jamie Myberg, thanks for telling us your story on Fox Weather.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you.
Come on. Let's go. Let's go. Come on, Tater. Come on, Stovall.
Take a look at this. Heavy rain prompting horses to be rescued. That was from a barn in Kirbyville, Texas. As much as 14 inches of rain fell, prompting a flash flood emergency for the area Wednesday morning. The horses were guided out by boat, and we're happy to report that they were all safe and accounted for. Relentless storms just trudging across the South. They left their mark. Fox Weather's Nick Koser joins us now. And Nick, this has been a multi-day issue again. This is back-to-back weeks.
14 inches of rain is preposterous.
Yes.
I don't think I've ever seen a horse that submerged in water.
Right.
What an interesting...
And they all made it out, thankfully.
Thankfully, right? Well, New Orleans was in particularly dangerous situations as well with flooding yesterday, right? The Big Easy under a flash flood emergency after receiving almost 6.5 inches of rain, which is a whole lot of rain for that area, considering it's pretty well at sea level or parts of it being below sea level, right? So take a look at this video. The floodwaters so high that one individual broke out their canoe, which there's one in every crowd, right? You never like to see it. There's always a flood canoe or a floodwater canoe, right? Which seems like it could be fun, but that water is nasty and murky, and who knows what's in it, and who knows where it could lead, right? So, never a good scenario, never a good situation to do that. Also, I want to show you this video of a Tesla Cybertruck making its way through over 1/2 foot of water. We here at Fox Weather also don't advise of this, although Elon Musk back in 2022 did tweet. He said the Cybertruck could act as a floating boat if need be.
What?
Yeah, he said it could act as a watercraft to move through small bodies of water, rivers and streams, but not over large areas of water.
Fjord the river, like Oregon Trail, I suppose.
Yeah,
it's got bulletproof windows.
There you go. So I guess this individual is trying to put that to test. And again, we don't condone that type of activity here.
Right. You never know how deep that water is or the condition of the road below. I'm 99% sure that Cybertruck was parked in the background of Robert Ray's live shots in the French Quarter yesterday.
Yeah.
Either that or there's just a lot of Cybertrucks driving around there.
Yeah, no doubt. That's the first one I've seen in the wild, actually. So kind of cool, but not great circumstances. It wasn't just flooding either. The area also experienced powerful winds and tornadoes, as you know by now. Slidell, Louisiana, which is northeast of the city, just over Lake Pontchartrain, experienced widespread storm damage. Was reading a bit on Fox Weather, and we interviewed some folks in that area. Apparently, a military vet did liken this area to a war zone. He compared it to Baghdad back in 2004. That certainly paints a picture for you, right? The National Weather Service confirming the damage is associated with at least an EF1 tornado, with surveys ongoing. And these aerials came in from our friends at Fox 8 New Orleans. Roofs ripped off buildings with downed trees, power lines. So just a rough situation all around for that city that always seems to kind of take it on the these weather events.
A lot of trauma folks are drawing comparisons from. I mean, we've seen a lot of comparisons like Jamie, the bar owner in our last interview, to a Category 2 hurricane, which they've seen many of last several years in Louisiana.
Yeah, real quick, other areas experienced tornadoes. Just take a look at this video from Georgetown, Alabama.
Cuz that is a tornado. Like 2 football fields away. Oh my.
Wow.
I don't know if I'd be as calm as that gentleman was, but he was indeed correct. That was a tornado about 2 football fields away.
I agree with his analysis. It did appear that was a tornado.
Yeah, sometimes, I mean, it's always the Weather Service that makes that official call, but that one, eyeball test, I'm pretty sure is clear.
I'd say it passes.
Nick, thank you.
Sir.
We got to talk about the early part of next week, Ari, as we've been discussing some of these factors, at least top-down look. we see some comparisons in the overall weather pattern suggesting severe weather.
This is spring. You know, it's severe weather season. This is what's going to happen. You get a couple days of really active severe weather. You catch a little bit of a break. The break is going to be this weekend. And then early on next week, the Storm Prediction Center has already kind of carved out a couple of spots where they really think that there's going to be some severe weather. It's high confidence. It doesn't necessarily mean that this is going to be like a big tornado outbreak, so we're not trying to scare people here. This is like an early heads up.
That's the important point that you've been making, too. If you were with us on Fox Weather Now yesterday, this was this color red. It was a level 2. This isn't saying, oh, we think the weather is going to be worse on Monday. It's the Storm Prediction Center saying we're more confident that severe weather is going to occur.
Right, exactly. And they're actually pretty confident that it's going to be a 2-day severe weather event. And this is a pretty typical scenario, especially this time of year. You know, you get a storm that comes out into the plains, and then the second day it still pops off some more severe weather up in parts of the Mississippi Valley into the Midwest. So just to kind of time it out for you a little bit, you know, a lot of people are going to be affected by this. And we don't know the exact modes of severe weather that are going to be happening. We don't know if it's going to be primarily, you know, straight line damaging wind. Is it just going to be big hail with a low tornado threat? Is it going to be a big tornado outbreak kind of threat? All these things are on the table right now. We don't know what's going to happen yet, but as far as the timing goes, again, it's Monday into Monday night, and then Tuesday it moves out of the plains and into the Midwest.
So we'll be watching for the trends, all the latest with the forecast models as we get closer. Keep it here through Friday and into the weekend as we're watching that. We'll have to wait and see, too, beyond that. We said it's multi-days, Monday, Tuesday, perhaps into this area, which has been weirdly a severe weather magnet lately. We'd have to watch for that.
Wouldn't be surprised at all. Yep.
In case you haven't noticed, it's Friday Eve. What a week this has been. Last week ended with an earthquake in the Northeast. This week started with a total solar eclipse. And unfortunately, since the eclipse, we've been watching a lot of severe weather. Let's turn our attention to the weekend. Thankfully, you showed us what to expect early next week, but over the weekend, no major severe weather expected.
And I'll be anchoring some shows here on the weekend, and I'm not going to have anything to talk about. I mean, look at this. It's going to be nice and quiet.
At least you know where to look and the trends to watch at the early next week. But yeah, West Coast, I guess you could say, you'll be talking about that over the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be some action in the West. This is the new storm system that'll be coming in and likely eventually kind of playing into what happens with the severe weather in the plains. Early on next week, we'll have some lingering showers up into parts of the interior Northeast, the eastern Great Lakes. But apart from that, I mean, look, the heartland, the Midwest, a huge chunk of the country is going to have some fantastic weather this weekend.
Almost 70 in New York, up into the 80s in Augusta. That's the spot. Eyeballs watching the Masters. Hey, that's going to do it for this hour of Fox Weather Now. Don't forget, you can download the Fox Weather app. Stay with us as we track today's storms in the Ohio Valley.
Cases to the legal side of it was not really part of our regular consciousness. And the fact that, you know, this guy, this celebrity, this very likable person could be thrust into that world was just a big jolt to everything about society. It's hard to see that ever happening again. Certainly hope that, you know, a similar case never happens again. But, you know, that's one of those jolting moments that, you know, is probably a once-in-a-lifetime thing.
All right, Fox Sports' Ralph Acciano joining us here with more on this news today of OJ Simpson passing at the age of 76. Ralph, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. Anytime.
All right, meanwhile, let's give you a live look here at New York City. My colleague, Andy Mack, who's going to be taking over here on the desk any minute now, spoke with Fox 5's Linda Schmidt there in New York about how New York responded to this news back in the day. Let's listen in here to this conversation next.
Welcome back in here to Live Now from Fox. I am Andy Mack, and we're continuing to hear reaction as OJ Simpson dies after battling cancer. And this was a story that was certainly a worldwide phenomenon, both the trial and the Bronco.
severe thunderstorm warning for West Virginia.
Again, a confirmed tornado on the ground in downtown Conyers. This is a very dangerous and life-threatening weather event. Get into the interior section of your house, away from windows or a basement if you have. And there's the debris right there in the Millstead area near the Rockdale Medical Center. Right. Channel 1 Atlanta.
There is a storm coming, an event like the world has never seen before. The emerging event will have little to do with weather, but more about developing situations that were foreseen many years ago. We have always warned you during severe weather and news events that affected many. Now, Channel 1 Atlanta begins a new series to warn you about what's coming soon and make sure you are prepared. Join us on a new journey, as according to a recent survey, a lot of people believe we are living in the last days. Current news events show us now more than ever. In history, time is setting the stage for the coming storm, a new series, now playing only on Channel 1 Atlanta.
Storms. Tonight, people are now the latest on that cleanup. Storms. And now the latest on that cleanup. 10,000 families in North Georgia. Nearly 10,000 families in North Georgia. Metro Atlanta. Many people wish that was all they were dealing with. Many people wish that was all they were dealing with. Like a DeKalb County family with a tree. It tore off the front of their house. Tore off the front of their home. And Metro Atlanta is dealing with high winds, scattered showers tonight. So we have live severe weather. Team 2 coverage across Metro Atlanta. We start though with Chief Meteorologist tonight. So we have live severe weather. Team 2 coverage across Metro Atlanta.
Look at these wind gusts. 47 mile an hour gust measure right now.
This isn't quite over yet.
Look at these wind gusts. 48 mile an hour gust measure right now. So the wind is up. Last hour, 48 mile an hour gust in Atlanta, now 31. And of course, so the wind is up. Some additional power outages. We also tree limbs may showers, and of course, isolated downpours embedded within these scattered showers. The heaviest rain now. Also up into the North Georgia mountains, northern Lumpkin County, embedded within these scattered showers. The heaviest rain showers, a brief downpour comes and goes quickly, and then back towards the west, in the metro area, spotty showers, a brief downpour comes and goes quickly, and then back towards the west, and then finally it's going to move out. But the wind advisory, to moderate rain, that's for all of us until 8 o'clock over the next few hours, and then finally it's going to move out. But the wind advisory, that's in effect for all of us die down. It doesn't instantly stop, of course. Now, after 8 o'clock, for additional wind trees falling, gradually dies down. It doesn't instantly stop, of course. This wind blowing in drier air, I'll show you when really sunshine returns after the sunset, and when our temperatures climb back to the 80s. This wind blowing in drier air, I'll show you when sunshine returns, and when our temperatures climb back to the 80s.
Neighbors and tree companies have a lot of cleaning up to do. Power Good Thing is back on in Sandy Springs neighborhood. Neighbors and tree companies are happy about their lights being back on, but you talked about at 5 o'clock how you look around and there's still so much left. They're happy about their lights being back on, but you talked about at 5 o'clock how you look around.
No one's complaining about having their power back on, but you know there's still a lot of work to be done.
And it still looks like that, George.
No one's complaining about having their power back on, but you know there's still a lot of work to be done. Like
up here,
this line that is still just hanging so low. I don't hear their machines right now, but I can see the truck is still there.
Up the Parkway,
there's tree companies are still working. I don't hear their machines right now, but I can see the truck is still there. There's still so much work to be done here.
Some scary moments for a Sandy Springs neighborhood while a storm rolled through Wednesday night. Some scary moments for a Sandy Springs neighborhood while a storm rolled through Wednesday night.
We're in our family room, and the lights just started flickering off and on. I said, and so I looked outside. The winds were about to go out, so I turned off the television set and started turning off the lights. And right after I did that, everything went black. About to go out, so I turned off the television set and started turning off lights. And right after I did that, everything went black.
Some huge trees fell on some power lines all along Mount Vernon Parkway. Neighbors say many of the lines are still hanging low and even on the ground, but power is back on now. Neighbors say they deal with this way too much. Cynthia Richardson and her husband just moved into this neighborhood a few months ago. She's glad her home wasn't damaged Wednesday, and she appreciates how dedicated
dedicated into this neighborhood Georgia Power workers have been for the last 24 hours. She's glad her home wasn't damaged Wednesday, and she appreciates how dedicated Georgia Power workers have been for the last 24 hours.
Still working, and I woke
The
up
road
about
is
maybe
still
5 or
supposed to
something,
be
and I
blocked,
saw
but
lights. They
neighbors
were
have moved the
working.
barricades. At one point, Sandy Springs police officers were out here standing guard at the barricades, but when the power company trucks left, so did the officers were out here standing guard at the barricades, but when the power company trucks left,
Taisha, it's just amazing the amount of work that gets done and still so much left. Looking forward to those people getting everything back to normal. Taisha, it's just amazing the amount of work that gets done and still so much left. Massive tree looking forward to those people getting everything back to normal. Thank you. In the next 10 minutes, we're going to take you live to that area where a massive tree fell to clear out all of this debris. In the next 10 minutes, we're going to take you live to that area where it's all hands on deck to clear out all of this debris.
The community reached out to Channel 2 after learning Homeowners Association is furious at their developer. The community reached out to Channel 2 after learning they may have to pay more than investigative reporter Ashley Lincoln is live in that community tonight. And Ashley, these homeowners claim their developer gave them investigative reporter Ashley Lincoln is live in that community tonight. And Ashley, these homeowners claim their developer gave them inaccurate information about this.
From the HOA that the developers allegedly told some homeowners that it was the county's responsibility to tear down some of these trees. The HOA told some homeowners that it was the county's responsibility to tear down some of these trees. The HOA discovered 4 trees on her property that's in jeopardy that we're standing in front of. She says she has at least 4 trees on her property that's in jeopardy of falling down.
Cherokee County homeowners say with each rolling storm, they sit with bated breath because this Cherokee County homeowners say with each rolling storm in March, they sit with bated breath
trees around this community.
This randomly happened on a clear sunny day in March. A tree fell on his home last month. O'Neill Wilburn showed me the inside of his bedroom when a tree fell on his home last month. Went down the neighbor's driveway.
Everybody's really upset about the situation.
And hours later, another tree went down the neighbor's driveway.
Everybody's really upset about the situation.
Trees are falling. He blames the developer. I spoke with an HOA board member for allegedly deceiving the subdivision where these trees are falling. He blames the developer. Smith Douglas Homes for allegedly deceiving homeowners.
So these homeowners have been going to the county and to the city for a long time trying to get something rectified.
The HOA had an arborist look at the wooded area behind the homes, and they discovered more than 30 trees. The HOA had an arborist look at the wooded area behind the homes, and they discovered more than 30 trees in jeopardy of falling onto homes.
See some of these trees could pose an issue for homeowners. We would have given them the proper measures to remove these trees. Some of these trees could pose an issue for homeowners. We would have given them the proper measures to remove these trees.
Now the HOA
homeowners
says
might have to pay
homeowners may have to
$3,000
pay
each to remove these trees. If we can't get Smith Douglas to do anything, homeowners might have to pay $3,000 each to remove these trees.
And the HOA says that arborist told them a lot of these trees are falling because this land was clear cut to make way for the subdivision. And the HOA says that arborist told them a lot of these trees are falling because this land was clear cut to make way for the subdivision. To the builder of the subdivision, they have not responded. For these trees, now we've sent multiple emails to the builder of the subdivision. They have not.
Miles per hour, devastating when you look at what was so many people's livelihood, right? They worked for these beautiful spots in Slidell, just north of Lake Pontchartrain. Let's bring in Fox News multimedia reporter. He is live in Slidell with more on those recovery efforts. Bowen, how's it looking today?
Yeah, Steve, you can just look right behind me and see the devastation that this storm caused this area. And yeah, you were talking about the livelihoods of people being affected by this. This building right behind me belonged to a contractor. Now, this is his business, and they just packed up for the day. They were working throughout the morning into the afternoon. Now that we're getting close to that, we're in that dinner time now. That they just have the debris stacked up in areas. They were using heavy machinery. They brought a trailer in and salvaging as much as they could. But you can just see that there's still more to be done here in the recovery efforts. This just comes to show that this isn't going to be just a couple of days. It will take some time to get this area looking back to normal. Now, I talked to a man that lives in this area, and the best way being in this storm when it hit in his apartment was not a hurricane.
It was a 7-minute of Katrina episode, woofing through. I mean, we don't know where we're going to be at tomorrow, and that's the God's honest truth. But the thing is this, we still just trying to make it. And so far we got our cars from under the tree, you know, as you can see. And we're just trying to gather up the little thing that we can take.
The destruction is widespread across East St. Tammany Parish. Hundreds of homes have been damaged. Trees toppled over on some buildings because of the strong winds. Utility companies are working to restore power as 20,000 people are still without electricity, but that is an improvement from yesterday's 38,000. Only minor injuries have been reported. Thankfully, nobody was killed by the storm. Officials say it will take a few days to restore power to everyone, but the parish will not look the same for a few weeks.
You don't have time to prepare for a tornado. If it's going to happen, it's going to be random and it's going to be in seconds, and your life has just changed in any moment. I don't remember anything. I've lived in Southeast Louisiana for all of my life, and I don't remember seeing anything or working on something that was just this devastating this quickly.
And Michael says he can't put an exact price tag on the cost all this damage will be, but he expects that number to be well in the millions. Steve?
Yeah, you can't almost put a price tag, as we heard from Michael. He's lived there his entire life, right, Bowen? So much of those memories and where you had your childhood is now destroyed from this powerful event. We'll continue to get those updates. Fox News multimedia reporter Bowen Kudrovich live in Slidell. Thank you. Let's talk about this beyond just Slidell, but the Gulf Coast and truly what these last 4 days have been. It has been days after days of intense storms, all types of severe weather. We're talking major wind damage, major hail, and of course that flooding and then tornadic concerns too. Southern Mississippi, they're seeing their share of storm damage. This is Harrison County still reeling from downed trees and power lines. Over at Katy, Texas, businesses were damaged by that tornado as well. We got aerials actually from Katy, Texas that shows us just how much work is going to be needed there. And when you look at some of those here in Katy, Texas, that was an EF1 90-mile-per-hour winds. And so it didn't have much of a track on it, but it still did plenty of damage when it was on the ground. Now, that same storm battered Lake Charles and actually led to that EF2 tornado, which damaged homes and businesses. When you look at it here, I mean, this was in a powerful interview that Ian Oliver just had. This is the Library Riot, right? It's one of those bars there in Lake Charles, and Ian was able to talk to the owner and what that was like when you see this type of incredible damage. And then Slidell also had an EF2. So this, again, speaks to the intensity of this as well. So this was actually a confirmed derecho event, too, by the way. A derecho is a major wind event over at least 400 miles. This one was 650 miles all along the I-10 corridor. And so that speaks to the intensity of this from all the way Texas into the panhandle of Florida. Now, earlier today, Fox Weather's Robert Ray caught up with tornado survivors who say nothing could have prepared them from the ferocity of this storm.
You are a survivor, officially a survivor. Tell me how you're feeling.
Just, I get spurts of emotions, and they just go. Just never really been through something like this. Hurricanes are a bit different than tornadoes. Preparation than a hurricane. A hurricane, you can kind of prepare, kind of emotionally, and just, I guess, emotionally and physically, you can kind of prepare and just evacuate. Then a tornado, you just don't realize that they're coming for you. When they shut down the schools, we kind of just prepared for bad weather. Yeah. Than we did for, anything else. We didn't prepare for a tornado. We just prepared for, a bunch of rain.
You can hear the stress and the anxiety and the emotion. And we're going to continue to talk about those moments when these powerful storms push through right now. This is what that EF2 tornado did in Lake Charles at a Louisiana bar. And you see how it just busts through the door and collapses that wall. The owner actually describes the terrifying moments. That's going to be coming up here on Fox Weather Live.
At Rue La La, feel like $1 million without paying the price. Seize the deals on top names before they're gone. Get in to never miss out. Shop RueLaLa.com today.
That's $78.29.
Oh, I've only got $50. Take out the cheese puffs and the broccoli. I mean, who likes broccoli?
I don't. Only $22.87 to go.
It would be faster with the Empower app. Empower Cash Advance gives you up to $250 instantly. No late fees, interest, or credit checks.
I've got money. Keep the cheese puffs, but leave out the broccoli.
Get Empower Cash Advance from $10 to $250 instantly. Download the Empower app today.
At 1-800-PACK-RAT, we make moving and storage simple. We provide the safe, secure moving and storage container. You provide the story. Whether you're moving in town or across the country, need temporary or long-term storage, no one makes it easier than 1-800-PACK-RAT.
Problem across the South, just days of storms dropping inches of rain in a matter of minutes. Across Texas, towns were practically underwater just outside of Dallas. Over in New Orleans, there was enough water for people to commute via canoe. And we actually have new video that's out of Slidell, and it shows us the power of those storms. A car was seen flipped on its side there. Again, the National Weather Service says the tornado that was in Slidell, Louisiana, was now an EF2. You'll see that here with winds up to 120 miles per hour. And also notice in those vehicles, the windows blown out as well. While we always stress that a vehicle is never a safe place to ride out these severe storms. Now, when you look at this video of a tornado tearing through a bar in Lake Charles, this is another reason why you want to get to an interior room, right? You don't want to be doing look-see and trying to look outside to find the tornado. This was early yesterday morning. This bar is called the Library Riot, and it was one of several businesses left with significant damage in the wake of yesterday's storms. The owner was in the bar when that tornado hit, sheltering in place along with its patrons. Thankfully, everyone is okay, but now he has to shift his focus to rebuilding his livelihood. The owner of that bar is Jamie Myberg. He joined Ian and Oliver earlier. Take a listen.
At first, the door blew open pretty violently. So I ran by to close it. And I've been through a few Category 2s, and the wind was very, very similar. So by the time I closed the door, deadbolted it, the windows and the bricks shook violently. Luckily, I had a few moments to get the customers into a safe area. We're about 30 feet away, 40 feet away when it blew out. And yeah, the wind was intense. It came through real strong.
Hey, Jamie, your comparisons to a tropical system, I was reading through some of your comments about this, and as you've been describing this like a Category 2, you've been through a very similar situation with Hurricane Laura. That was a previous location of this same business, right, only a few weeks in, and you dealt with Laura back 4 years ago. Did you ever think you'd be dealing with these kind of circumstances in such a short period of time again?
Oh, yeah, of course not. Yeah, it was very unfortunate to go through it again, but I will say me and my business partner, Christine, our experience with dealing with the previous one made handling this situation much more manageable.
I like that. Lessons learned from an unfortunate event with a powerful hurricane. With that, with the knowledge that you gained from that, having to go through an experience like that, what does the path ahead look like? How quickly do you think that you can get the bar back open?
We are, as of right now, we have a standard wall going in just to keep things together. We're hoping to be open, fingers crossed, by next week. It could be a little bit longer. But then the full remodel will take about 45 to 60 days. We have our two-year anniversary coming up soon, and we'll go ahead and relaunch that party when it's all finished.
That is going to be a heck of a party. I love the accelerated timeline. It's excellent to hear that. I do understand that this was your business. It's your livelihood. That was damaged. Your home was damaged too. How significant was that?
We were very fortunate that the one from my home was only a 115-mile-per-hour tornado, and it kind of like clipped us. So it was more outside exterior damage. I found a random roof in my backyard. But other than that, I'm hoping it'll still be livable. The adjusters will let us know this week.
Jamie, you've been through, in less than 5 years' time, a couple of brutal experiences. I love your energy and your outlook towards this. By the way, Library Riot, one of the coolest names for a bar. Keep in touch with us, please. Let us know how the recovery's going. We'd love to see some images of that party when you open back up, too. Jamie Myberg, thanks for telling us your story on Fox Weather.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you.
And we're going to take you now to New London, Connecticut, as the Northeast braces for some rain and wind. It's all, attached to that severe weather complex. Right now, we're looking at that pushing through the Great Lakes, but we are looking at the eastern side of that. It's going to have some impacts. It's going to have some impacts in the Northeast and along the coast. Here's a wide view. You'll notice mainly those temperatures in the 50s and 60s. We do have Boston and Bangor into the mid-40s, but relatively light showers. When does it really start to enhance? It's overnight when you'll see that threat push into areas like the tri-state area by mid-morning tomorrow. It's in the New England region, and the most healthy portion of that is this stream that's offshore, thankfully, but spots like Cape Cod could definitely get a glancing blow. And then we always know the wraparound effect. And, the temperatures are so warm, especially for the Great Lakes and their water temperatures. This is going to be lake-enhanced rain initially, and then you'll see that snow take over, and it's going to be that very wet snow, all because it's Friday night into Saturday morning, allowing those temperatures to drop. And so here's the rain expectations. You'll get some spots in the Catskills where they could get 3 to 5 inches of rain. Erie, Pennsylvania, they could get 2 to 3 inches of rain, and then you'll have that wet snow that falls on top of it, most of that melting quickly. But because either way, it's going to be liquid. It's going to be too much for these areas.
There is one new severe thunderstorm warning for West
Cleveland,
Virginia.
Columbus, and just outside of Cincinnati into areas like Pittsburgh, all the way up into the Poconos. Now, that was the rain threat. Now we look at the wind threat. And tomorrow, if you miss out on the rain, the wind's going to get you, right? It's widespread. Nantucket to New York, all I-95 there. You're talking 40 to 50 mile-per-hour gusts at times, peaking to 60 miles per hour, and then it tapers off by late Friday. Here's another aspect of this. You're looking at coastal flood warnings because of the movement and angle of this. It feeds right into the Chesapeake Bay, right? The Delmarva area. And so it allows those areas to crash on shore with that water, and just another component for the spots in the Northeast to contend with. Now, let's talk about the weekend, though, right? Because that took us through Friday. And thankfully, for the weekend, we're actually looking at improving conditions for most locations. So as we get into what we can anticipate over the weekend, I think there's some major events that are happening, and a lot of people are going to be excited about this. We do have, some storms are going to be picking up out west, and that's going to feed till next week's severe weather. But before we get into that, I want to talk about today. We had the Masters tournament that was delayed because of those severe storms. Augusta right now into the upper 70s. Notice that wind. Can you imagine trying to play one of the toughest courses on the planet, and you got 35 mile-per-hour winds ripping around? That just makes it fun to watch the pros battle the elements. Now, for the Masters tournament, it does clear out for the rest of the weekend and looking at great conditions. So here's Saturday. Notice all of that energy that slams into the West Coast, and you're looking at rain locked in all over the Golden State, and that will spill down into the plains. Another big event is the Oaklawn race there. Yes, the horses are running around the track there in Hot Springs, Arkansas. That's going to be Saturday afternoon, an area that was pounded with repetitive storms for about 3 to 4 days this week.
There is one new severe thunderstorm warning for North Carolina.
Opportunity to get a sense of normalcy, something to enjoy for the weekend, and also another thing to look at. Arlington Renegades hosting the DC Defenders. That is going to be obviously in Texas, a spot that was hit hard by storms. Another thing for many to look forward to. Now, let's get into next week, though, because the storms continue, right? We're in the severe season, and it is off to a hot start. So we're taking you to Oklahoma City, where right now it looks good, but that's going to change dramatically as we enter into early next week, and we get this bullseye that forms right over Oklahoma City and the Red River region. So notice this. We are days removed from this, 5 days, and you're seeing a very. If you've been with us here on Fox Weather, that is not a good thing. That means there is likely to see that could enhance or even expand. There's going to be plenty of adjustments. So I'm showing you over the weekend, it's looking. Enjoy it. Make some memories, but also stay in tune with the weather because we want to make sure that you're prepared as this evolves next week. Look at that dry line. It's going to be the ignition. That's what's going to fire up these storms from northern Texas and the Panhandle over the Red River region and into areas like Oklahoma City towards Kansas City. Notice this is a Monday night threat. So we'll be tracking it here at Fox Weather for you into the overnight hours. Let's talk about the ingredients that are in play. Of course, if you're talking about tornadic conditions, you have to have wind shear. So you're looking at the winds racing out of the southwest and then the surface winds out of the south and southeast. And so that gives us that potential. But this is what we anticipate this time of year. Nobody is surprised. Texas and Oklahoma, most likely areas in the country really to see tornadoes this time of year in the middle of April. When you look at Oklahoma, by the way, it's April into May, right? That phasing, those are the 2 peak months that we see climatologically where we can potentially see those tornadoes. And so as we track it out on Monday, it's going to be in the plains. But as we get into Tuesday, it continues to expand as well. And we'll be there every step of the way.
Come on, come on, come on. Come on, Pearl. Come on, Pearl.
Up next, there's just no time for horsing around. These horses were rescued from floods in Texas. Ahead, we're going to be meeting the brave man who risked everything to make sure his animals made it to safety. Make sure you stay with us.